Now it is official. You're now in the hot seat.
Oh, yay.
So, welcome, Charlene. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, just great.
Now, I think we've got just about, usually the people that we have in the audience are people that have been with us before. But if you have not been with us before, we ask that you please keep your video off and your microphone muted, just so that we can kind of keep things orderly here on the show. My name is Everett. I am kind of the host along with Celeste and Terry. And we are talking with Charlene tonight about divorce and the different reasons for divorce and all those fun things. Not like it's a topic we've never talked about before, right? So
probably not. Never.
Yeah.
It's the first time.
Nope, none of us.
I'm sure. So you nervous?
A little bit.
A little bit? Good. Well, we'll keep the heat on just a little bit. Make sure that we keep things interesting. Keep you on your toes.
You
Right?
can handle it.
It doesn't take much to keep me on my toes. So it's
Yep. So, all right. Well, fantastic. Now, I know you a little bit because I know Celeste.
You know,
obviously.
Celeste a little bit, yeah.
And so Celeste tells me all kinds of things about you, all good, except
Vice
for the
versa.
few bad. Just kidding.
Except for the Celeste.
Yeah, we'll divulge all kinds of secrets tonight.
All the drama.
Yeah. Oh, there, she just went off. She's like, forget it. I'm out then.
Done.
So great, Charlene. So tell us a little bit about you. Where do you live? I mean, I know, but tell us for the audience. Where do you live? How many kids? How long you've been divorced? All that good stuff. Just tell us who you are.
Okay, so I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I've been divorced a little over a year, and I have 3 kids, ages 18, 15, and 13.
18, 15, and 13. Okay.
Yep.
Great. So is the 18-year-old still at the house, or are they heading off to college?
They live with their father.
Okay.
About 30 minutes away. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Oh, Celeste is back.
Sorry, I had a little bit of children.
Didn't scare her away.
Oh no, I thought you were mad at us because we were talking about
Oh, no.
The drama.
Right. So, okay, you live in Dallas. You've been there for how long?
I've been here for about 5 years.
Okay. Where did you come? Where were you before that?
Oh gosh, where wasn't I? So I grew up Air Force and then married into the Army. So I've moved. 5 years is the longest I've lived anywhere. So yeah.
Dallas is the place to be for 5 years.
Dallas is.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
So now you were in Dallas with your ex, and it sounds like he kind of moved away a little bit, or at least across town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he moved out.
Great. Well, and so you've been single for a year.
Yes.
Yeah. How's that going? Yeah.
You know,
with COVID, I mean, not much can happen, but
Yeah. Well, I think a lot can happen. I think a lot has happened, even with COVID. I know a lot of people who hooked up and kind of got married, and some of it was like drive through on your motorcycle with a mask on in Vegas. I saw that once, but
I missed that.
everybody's got their own flavor, I guess. So
wow. Yeah, I have not had that excitement. No.
I say that's what you shoot for, Charlene. Drive-through, motorcycle, Elvis. That's
Oh
your,
yeah, that's
There you
totally my
go.
type.
right.
You have to know each other for at least a week.
at least a week.
At least a
One
week.
full week.
That's right.
Yeah, that's that Mormon standard time of like, okay, we're ready for eternity now. It's been a whole week. So yeah.
I'd be following my parents' footsteps. They knew each other 6 weeks when they got married.
Oh my gosh.
6 weeks.
So
Wow.
how long have they been married?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me do the math.
Yes, I am.
45 years,
Wow.
something like that.
Wow.
All
That's
right.
good.
Very cool.
I kind of feel like I've known some other people, some of the older generation that were like that. Like they got married after 2 months, right? Like from start to finish, or 3 months. And then the funny thing is from them, their advice is always like, take it slow, guys. Really? You've been married for 50 years and you guys dated for 2 months. Like,
Take it slow.
Okay. Yeah. So totally different sort of generation, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think they're just like, dude, we went through hell and back, and we probably might not have done it if we would have taken it slow.
Right.
Like, they're like, dude, Take it slow.
Take it slow.
Yeah. So, all right. I mean, I'm trying to ask questions that I don't know a whole lot about, but tell me a little bit about what you do for work.
I work at a doctor's office. He's a family practice doctor,
Okay.
secretary. So I'm just one of the receptionists. So I
you're
answer the phones and schedule and pretty much.
Yeah. See, I'm in pharmaceutical sales, so I know the people at the front desk all the time.
That's
People
right.
come in, and are you like under orders to shoo them away if they come in? Like if those guys come in, tell them that I'm not here or we don't see reps, or is your office actually nice?
We like reps.
Because you get
we're
free
getting
lunch,
tired. Yeah, we're getting tired of the laboratories coming in. You know, we have the labs that we work with, but other reps.
That's kind of the new thing, right? Labs want to set up shop in your office and kind of be there.
In the office?
Yeah. Yeah. If you only just let us sit in your office all day, it'll be like totally a wonderful thing. Like, cool. Everyone's going to want to do that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Good. Well, okay. So you got 3 kids. Do you split time with them, or how is that set up?
Yeah, we actually don't go by a set schedule because he's an HVAC technician. So his schedule is really wonky, especially in the summer. He's gone a lot. So, I mean, we actually have a really good relationship. We get along better now than we did married. So, it's just kind of like, hey, I want the kids this weekend. Okay. So we figure out a way to get the kids there and make it work.
How long were you guys married?
Almost 18 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
How old were you when you got married?
21.
21. Okay. So you're almost 40.
I am 40.
Oh, you just turned.
I just turned 40 last month. Yeah.
Okay.
Had, like,
I remember the birthday.
It was like an entire 5 days of celebration.
Yes. Well, that's kind of how it usually goes with most of the girls I know. Like they have a birth week, and guys are like, have like a birth couple hours or something.
Right.
I'll disagree with that, Everett. I'll disagree with that because mine's just like a day, if that. I'm totally fine with just a half a day or even a couple hours. But when it turns into a week, it's too long.
Man, I don't know. Every time I see it on Facebook, it's like, yeah, this is my birth week. Like, what? Okay.
Right. Yeah. Usually mine's not like that. It's usually just not even a day. But, there was just a lot of celebration this year. It was fun.
This year, she took off multiple days and she was like, dang it, we're going to celebrate. So we did.
Well, there were other plans for that week.
Those fell through. That in there, but yes, there were plans that fell through. So we had the whole weekend to do fun things. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like fun. I know a little bit of the inside scoop because I know that there was a little bit of drama around the birth week, but that's okay. It happens. So was this kind of an extra special celebration for you? Like, okay, this is my first birthday that I've celebrated single in almost half my life.
Well, it was really the second one. But it's kind of the big birthday, 40, and I really feel like I'm trying to come into my own and embrace who I am. So it was kind of a big year. And I had awesome friends that jumped in, and my other best friend who lives in Georgia flew out for my birthday too. So
it
was an awesome.
Were they there for the whole week?
The weekend.
The whole birth week.
Not the whole week. She got it for the weekend.
Thursday even to Sunday. So it was good.
Good. Fun. Good. So now, as far as you and Celeste go, you guys are kind of there together, like two compadres in the Dallas market, hitting it up and breaking hearts, right?
Well, Celeste is.
What? I do not break any hearts.
Truth comes out.
I
hear all about it.
No.
I know all the guys.
I do not break any hearts. I am. No. I'm nice.
I'm talking about both you guys.
Charlene's broken.
Ever. Well. Anyway.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I really appreciate you guys and your friendship. I think it's really special to hear. Celeste talks really, really highly of you. So I get to hear all the good stuff.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
all
Celeste.
It's all good. I might tease you otherwise, but it's all good. So fantastic. Well, tonight, obviously, we're going to be talking a little bit about divorce and defending your choices, right?
Mhm.
And kind of the whole situation of, should I get divorced? Should I not get divorced? I think a lot of people have their own 2 cents and weigh in on whether or not it's appropriate or it's not something that should
Right.
happen. I sort of take the opinion of, that's between that couple and the Lord, and not somebody else who is a third party that doesn't really have skin in the game.
Mhm.
So, but let's back up a little bit before we get into that, and let's talk about your choice to get married at the beginning.
Okay.
So let's go back to when you and your ex
Way back
were
when.
dating. All of what did you say it was? 6 weeks?
No, that was my parents.
Oh, your parents. I'm sorry. Yep, you're right. So tell us a little bit about your ex. How did you guys meet?
gosh.
How did this whole thing start off in the beginning?
Okay, yeah, we actually met in a chat room way back when.
Way back
when chat rooms were the thing,
yeah.
Was it like an LDS chat room, or?
It was actually ldschat.com, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know there was.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, so we started talking over Christmas break and met pretty quick, actually. Had a long 14-hour date, and he dropped off the face of the earth. He didn't think I was interested, apparently. It was a pity date.
So he was interested in you, but he thought you weren't reciprocating. So he's like, well,
right. Like he thought there was a whole bunch of other guys interested, which there wasn't, so.
Okay,
don't sell yourself short now.
No, there were no other guys were talking to me at all. So.
Okay, but you spent 14 hours on your first date with him, and
Exactly.
he weren't interested?
That's my point, Celeste.
What did you do for 14 hours on your first date?
Oh gosh, what did we do?
And if you're going to tell me 10 of it was making out, then you can just skip and go to the 4-hour part.
No, we did some ice skating, and we went to a movie, had lunch. We did laser tag. I don't remember everything we did. It was 20 years ago.
And 14 hours, I would be tapping out. I'd be falling asleep, and Celeste would be taking pictures of me to post on the internet. That's her little.
I have taken pictures of you sleeping, but I have never once posted them. But
yeah,
keep bringing this up, and I'm just about to do it.
It's blackmail. This is what happens. She's got them in reserve. So at any moment they could come out, and you could see me sitting there like a drunken sailor passed out on the floor or something.
Celeste, you need to share these. I haven't seen these.
I'm tempted to do so now.
You should.
Well,
you brought them up. It's okay.
True.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be the first time on a date for me. So yeah, I think I showed Celeste an old video from years ago. Terry would know. I went over to a guy we grew up with. His name's Frank. Went over to his house with a date, and I don't know what I was thinking. I just kind of laid down on the floor and stretched out for a minute, man, I'm just tired. And next thing I know, I'm waking up, and there's something tickling me. They're drawing on me and sticking things on me and everything and taking pictures. So I've been there before. I don't need to be drunk for that. I just get sleep drunk, and it happens. It's all good. I'll take it. So, okay. So you guys go on this 14-hour date, and then he just kind of bails, right? He's out of here.
Exactly.
How long, when you say he leaves, what are we talking? A couple
2
days?
months.
2 months. You didn't hear anything.
2 months. I heard nothing. Yeah. And I was actually extremely lonely one day, and was just going through my phone book trying to think of someone to talk to, and just flipping through and fell on his name. And I was like, oh, okay. I haven't talked to him in a while. So called him up. He wasn't even home. I left a message with his mom. But he called back, and we started going on dates, and the rest is kind of history. We dated really for a month and a half before he proposed. And then we were engaged a year.
You were engaged for
fairly close to you? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Did he live fairly close to you then? I'm assuming.
He was an hour away. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yes, a year, Celeste.
So you got engaged after 6 weeks, but then were engaged for a year?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. But a lot of that had to do with because like 9/11 happened and he decided to enroll or enlist in the Army. He was National Guard, but he decided to go full time. And so he had to go to the training for that. And the one he signed up for was like 6 months.
So he was gone a big portion of that.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
he was gone a majority of it. Yeah.
And you guys didn't think to do like a quick, let's get married sort of thing so that you can like, you know, go do your thing and we can at least solidify this?
Nah.
You want to take your time with it?
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure it out, but you know, it was hard. I had to plan the whole thing myself.
So did you feel like it was right off the bat? Were you like into it and ready to get married, or were you kind of like, well, okay, we can get married, but I'm not like ready to do it right now, sort of thing?
No, I think I was ready at the time. I don't know if I was really, I don't know. Looking back, like I don't think I was emotionally where I should have been to get married to him, but you know, I thought I was, you know, I was pretty naive at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what, you were 21, you said, when you got married? So
yeah.
I remember I always thought I was really emotionally mature at 21 coming off my mission. And I look back now like, man, I was an idiot. So
Right.
I don't even know how I served a mission. I'm like, man, I was completely dumb the whole time. I don't know what I was doing, but somehow I think the Lord just kind of like helps. Like, okay,
Right.
I've got an army of like prepubescent, well, not prepubescent, kind of like, I don't know, guys who are like in their total prime of dating and wanting to do all those sort of things. And they're just kind of wacky and crazy. And yet somehow this is what I got to work with. All right.
Right.
It's going to take a little work here, but I got this. So that's what he had to do for me. I know I was like all over the map, but okay. So one question that I really have, and I always think about this. I have a friend that as he puts it, he has like a really, really strong thing for redheads. Like he just, I don't know what it is. And I've known lots of guys like this before, that it's just intoxicating. Like they see a girl with red hair and it's just like Cupid just shot them with every arrow that he's got in his quiver. So that kind of like my friend, for example, I think he met his wife online, kind of like you, but it started like some sort of pen pal thing going on for like a year. And then the first time he met her, she shows up at his door and he opens the door and he's like, well, I wasn't really that attracted to her, but she had red hair. So there was like, that's everything, I guess. Like seriously, it's like a drug to some guys. So long story short, they've been married for 25 years or something like that. Amazing couple and great kids, things like that. But he's told me like, dude, I don't know what it is. It's just the red hair. I love it. Like I can't get enough of it. So I can promise you there are guys who see your red hair and they're like, all right, redheads are my thing. Like I love that. Like the rest of it, like you could probably be like, I don't know, have like no arms and no legs or something, but red hair, and they'd be like,
the red hair's there.
That's it. Yep.
And the thing is Charlene's hair is like a beautiful color red. Like I'm always telling her every time it hits the sun, I'm like, she's got gorgeous, like auburnish hair. It's really, really pretty.
It's not
It
orange.
is.
Yeah.
It's really pretty.
Yeah. So anyways, was that your ex? Was he kind of like, okay, Charlene?
He really liked redheads. Yeah.
Yep. See, I knew it. I called it. Like there are guys, I kid you not, that it's weird. It's like
It is.
Yeah, it's a thing. So anyways, okay. So you guys get married, and how soon before you start having kids?
2.5 months later, I was pregnant with my oldest.
Wow.
That was fast.
Yeah, it was super fast.
Wasted no time. Didn't want to like have a little year together or something like that. Just
yeah, apparently not. We weren't trying. We weren't not trying. You know, it was kind of like, if it happens, it happens.
Fair enough.
So
yeah, that's good. So now your kids you said 3.
I have 3 of them.
Boys, girls, mix. What do you
my oldest is a female. My 15-year-old's a son, and my youngest is a daughter.
Okay, so 2 girls and a boy.
Mhm.
Boys right in the middle with probably no bathroom space most of the time. So, yeah, I know how that works. So how did things go? Obviously, you guys kind of spent a little time, but your engagement, you were away. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
Same with the first year of
Same with
marriage.
the first year he was gone.
Right.
Was
Yeah.
he deployed?
He was.
Okay.
Yeah. But between training and deployment, our first year we had about 4 months together.
Okay. Wow. So you went through the whole pregnancy alone?
Pretty much.
Was she born?
And birth.
He was still
Mhm.
gone. Birth too.
Yeah.
That is
Wow.
so sad. I'm sorry, but I love the fact that people serve and do that for our country, but being the spouse that's left behind, that must be challenging.
Yeah, it was definitely tough. I mean, my oldest was 3.5 months when he came back home. So like life was a complete shift from when he left to when he came back. It was completely different. Not just at home, but like he was different
Right.
from being deployed. So
And he was over in Iraq. Is that
yeah.
about that time?
Yeah. Well, at that point, he was actually part of that big push for Operation Iraqi Freedom from Kuwait up to Baghdad, like that 2-week push up to Baghdad. He was part of that.
Wow. He probably saw some crazy things then.
Lots of things that I don't even know about still. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he came back, I mean, at that time, I don't know how deep in the middle of things he was, but I know I have a friend that was in the military over in Iraq, and they let him come home for the birth of his child, but he almost missed it. So it was like really close. Did he have an opportunity, or were they just like nixing that right off the bat? Like, nope.
No.
You're
Yeah, that didn't happen. He had just gotten up to Baghdad when she was born.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no way he was going to be there for that.
So then being gone for the first year and kind of having your daughter 3 months, clearly you're establishing some habits and you're kind of setting up your home. And then suddenly he comes home, and that's got to be a different change.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not just that, but he, because of what he dealt with over there, came home with PTSD that, a lot of guys don't want to admit that something's wrong. So like, and he doesn't do well with his emotions, acknowledging them. So like, it was just a struggle. He tried to hide it, but it manifests in your actions and how you talk. And so it was hard.
So you had a marriage, a child, a spouse gone, a spouse return with PTSD, all within like a year.
Yes.
What did that look like when he got back with PTSD? Like, was he like depressed a lot, or help us like understand a little bit what that looks like?
It was more like not even so much at first. It really wasn't bad. It took a little bit for it to like really set in. I mean, he was really jumpy. He would get angry kind of quickly. Not so much like at the beginning, but like as we had kids a little bit more, and they would be doing things that he didn't quite like he was quite short with them and snappy at them. And so then I felt like I had to be the shield to protect them from getting snapped at.
So was he just kind of always on edge type of thing?
Yeah.
Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like eggshells or shards of glass on the ground anytime he was home.
Okay. So like what, I'm just trying to get a better picture here, so forgive me for kind of repeating myself.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But what I'm trying to picture, like somebody's home, and like, would they just get mad at you for like random things? Like, hey, I don't want to watch that show on TV, and then they just off the handle? Or was it mainly like loud noises? Or
loud noises for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Kids being a little bit too loud, he would snap at them. So, I mean, just like not even really loud, but just playful.
Kids being kids.
Kids being kids. Yeah.
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 Did he get any sort of therapy or any sort of
help? No. It took him 6 years to even admit something was wrong. And even then he did go in and get medication, but he refused therapy.
Did the military even offer any sort of support or family support or anything afterwards for them coming home?
They probably would have.
If
Yeah.
you just spoke up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know that he would have wanted to do anything, because at first, like, he thought nothing was wrong. He was fine.
Right.
Well, he's
Nothing's
probably
different.
suppressed it and didn't want to have to deal with it. So he didn't want to talk about it. So nope, I'm fine. It's all
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
And this was like a regular everyday event then?
Every day.
Every
Yes. Every day.
Okay. And did you ever go and seek any sort of therapy on your own? Like, look, life is not good when he's around right now because he's got this PTSD from what happened in Iraq, and I need someone to talk to, or at least decompress with, or something.
No, I really didn't. Like, financially, we just did not have the money to do anything. So I just kind of tried to deal with it.
Okay. So financially, you guys were kind of tight. Was he still in the
Yes.
military then, or was he out
Yes.
kind of working?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did 12 years in the,
Oh,
in the
wow.
Army. Yeah.
Okay. So 12 years, and I guess he was still enlisted the whole time, I take it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. But did you
So-
live on base?
No, we never lived on base. We were always off.
Okay. I'm surprised. It seems like with the military, there would be options where you guys could, like, you can kind of take care of your family a little bit more financially, and there would be resources to help you through the military, at least through the VA or something, of like, guys,
Yeah.
someone to talk to.
Yeah, there probably would have been, but like, I didn't feel like he was even open to it. Like, even just asking him how he was feeling, like if he came home upset, he would be like, "Oh, I'm fine." Like, he'd be really short and he would just like zone into whatever he was doing. Like, there was no communication about his emotions with me. How's he going to do it with a therapist?
Yeah.
That's tough. So then what did you do? Or were you just kind of like, all right, I'm going to suck it up and just kind of roll with it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
You know, these are the cards that I was dealt, and there's not much I felt stuck. In the second deployment, you know, that was where divorce really came to my head, because I was just over it all. Had all three of my kids already, but I was just so done with the lack of emotions, if you will. Not being able to acknowledge it or communicate his feelings. And so, like, it was in my head, but I didn't want to go through with that because I made covenants with him and with God. So, like, that didn't seem like a good thing to do. But it was definitely on my mind. And then while he was deployed, he let me know he was a little bit suicidal. So then I'm like, now I really feel stuck. Like, I can't divorce him now. That might push him totally over the edge. And, you know, that's our finances right there. How am I supposed to support my kids?
Yeah.
I don't have a degree. I don't have a job. I don't have any way to support my kids. So, like, I really felt stuck. So it was really just making the best out of the situation that I could.
How long had you guys been married by the second deployment?
6 years.
6 years. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's not like he came back and then they shipped him back over, like within.
No.
You said you had all three of your kids, but okay.
Yeah.
So did you just, because my ex did a lot of working. Of course, he didn't go away for like long stints of time, but just like a week or whatever. But did you find that, like, during those moments when he was away, of course, your moments were longer, but did you notice that there was like a difference in the home, and maybe
Yeah.
that, I don't know, like, I guess for me, I was like, when he was away, I was able to kind of regulate my world, and it was more peaceful and it ran really well. And then when
Right.
they come back in, it kind of jumbles things up and causes more struggles.
Right. And I think that's kind of what helped it, the marriage last so long, was because he had these long stints away. It's like, okay, well, maybe things aren't as bad as they were because I'm okay now. And, you know,
How long
so.
was he gone at a time? Just
Do what?
Or how long was he gone at a time? Or did it just vary?
It varied. His first deployment was 6 months. The second deployment was 15 months. and then he had a year, and then he had another 6 months.
Did you
So,
find before he left, each time you had almost a sense of relief?
yeah, sadly, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, he's going.
Yeah.
I can finally get some
That's
peace a
hard.
little bit.
I wonder if for him, because if he struggled with PTSD and being in the home where there was noise and things like that would trigger him, I wonder if the time away was actually, well, I don't know, I guess he's going to war, so maybe that wouldn't be beneficial to him, but I wonder if it was a reprieve for him as well, but maybe not under the circumstances. Might have intensified it, so.
So when he comes back the second time, was it even more intense? I mean, did he have PTSD piled on to old PTSD type thing, or was it just?
Well, it was a little different, those 2 deployments. The first one, he was a mechanic, and the second one, he actually worked in an office. So like he wasn't out in the battlefield the last 3 deployments. So it was a little different, but like knowing that he was suicidal and like he was finally starting to get medication, which was helping. So I was like, okay, now I can really try to give him a chance, to straighten up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't really change like the atmosphere of the home a whole lot.
So when he came back then the second time, and you're just kind of like totally dreading going back into this situation where you're like, this is where I need to make a choice. This is where I need to decide, like, do I want to keep doing the song and dance, or are we going to get help, or what's going on?
Not at that point. At that point, it was just, I gotta just do what I can do. Like, I mean, we never talked to a bishop until the very end. At the end of it, like we never tried to get help. I had very few people that even knew that that we were struggling. He didn't even know that we were struggling. Like I even felt alone in that, because I would bring it up to him and he's like, no, we're fine. So like he couldn't even acknowledge that things were rocky between us.
Did you reach out to like your parents or anybody for any sort of support during this time?
My friend Michelle, who lives in Georgia, like she knew everything that was going on, but I didn't really talk to my parents too much about it.
Okay.
That's hard. That's a hard place to be when you're struggling and trying to make things work and you don't really have an outlet. So that must have been hard.
It was.
You weren't in therapy and had at least a therapist to unload on, right?
Right. Well, and to make it even worse, like I didn't even feel like I had close friends like in the areas that I was to even talk to. Like I didn't feel like anybody even cared what was going on.
Right.
I felt like I had to put on that happy face and yep, everything's good.
Oh, it's the worst. I've been there.
So
Yeah.
it was super
Same.
hard all around. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like when you do talk to the one certain friend about something, you feel like, well, am I being a burden to them as well?
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of find
Am I
yourself-
imagining things? Like, am I
Yeah.
really seeing things clearly?
Yeah. Is it all me or is it really true? Or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so he comes back the second time. I'm just kind of painting the picture in my own mind. Sorry. I had a couple in my ward that your story kind of reminds me of them. He was a great guy, but he had some things going on. I mean, this was a guy who was like in like the high council and bishop and all kinds of things. Like he was always doing good stuff, and he actually like had been like he had like burn marks and scars and things like that from some time when he rushed into a building and actually like pulled some kids out or something like that. Just one of these guys you're like, that sounds fairy tale, but he traveled a lot for work. And I remember talking to his wife one day at church, and she's like, yeah, since he's retired, he's been home a lot. And honestly, I wish he would just go back on the road, like leave. And like, seriously, like this guy, like Superman, like you don't want him home, but there's just a different dynamic when you get used to having your home the way it is.
Yep.
Versus, going out and having them come in and come out and kind of leave things. So I can't imagine being in a situation where you're in a marriage and you just get married, then he gets deployed, but then he comes back and you now have to create like a new life together because he's been gone for the first year of your marriage mostly. But then it's not good.
Yeah.
Then when he leaves again, you feel like kind of a pressure valve releasing, and then he comes back again. You're like, all right, here's the pressure.
Here we go again.
Yeah. So was there a third deployment or just the second deployment was it?
No, there were 4 total.
4 total deployments. So did you do this yo-yo every single time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And not just deployments, but there were trainings in between where he would go to like California, or I don't remember the other one. Yeah, there were trainings he would have to do for like a couple weeks or whatever.
So in my mind, I'm thinking that as he's coming and going, and as you're trying to deal with the struggles of him in the home, or him with the kids, or the kids in general, or life in general, or your doubts about the marriage and things like that, tell me how you managed. I'm assuming, since you didn't have therapy and you didn't have any close friends nearby, that the Lord was pretty much your outlet. Like, you must have been so leaning on the Lord to deal with all of that. So tell us about that.
Well, because I couldn't like change the situation I was in, like I can't change what he's going through. All I could change was me. And even though I didn't like how he was acting or talking or whatever, like all I could do was find it in myself to forgive him, because I knew like he was going through his own things. It's not like he was doing this on purpose to hurt anybody.
Right.
So finding it in myself to forgive him, like in the moment, and accept him for who he was, and try to see him really as Heavenly Father sees him, as a child of God, as his son. So that was really what I focused on for years.
So did you kind of lose yourself then? Because when I look back, and the reason why I asked that is because when I look back, when I was trying to save my marriage and I personally was trying to protect my kids a whole bunch.
Right.
And I literally had to remove myself from the equation. Like literally, I never considered me in any of it.
Right.
And so is that something you had to do to survive? Just like focus on maybe his needs and the kids' needs and the family needs, and not so much Charlene's needs?
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just because of him. I mean, there were issues that my kids go through. I mean, you know, my kids' stories too. But I mean, they have their own struggles that took me in different directions too. So yeah, there really wasn't a lot of me time. Yeah. So I definitely did
When
lose
did you
myself.
decide to focus on you? Was it just post-divorce, or was it maybe?
Yeah, pretty much post-divorce. Yeah. Post-divorce, you know, once he was out of the house and I could like feel that lift, you know, that burden lifted, it was like, oh, wait, I can do these fun things and meet people and find out who I am.
And go out dancing with your bestie.
Go out dancing.
Just kidding.
So I have a question. So when you were in the middle of the heightened emotions and the, uncomfortableness, I guess, of the marriage, what did you do for yourself to help relieve your internal discomfort or your stress, or what kind of things did you find to help balance that out a little bit?
Really was just venting to my friend Michelle. She was really my out, plus God, but yeah, they were my outlets for sure.
Do you journal?
No, that's never been a strong point for me.
Like besties and you don't journal. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna get you a journal.
I have a journal.
Just empty.
I have one right here. There's nothing in it.
I want you to make a entry about how awesome your bestie is in there. Just kidding.
Dude,
He's gonna write a whole bunch of stuff about the girl in Georgia. Like,
actually, she probably her bestie in Dallas, not so much Georgia.
Oh, okay.
But so anyway, Charlene, I know you well, and I know your stories.
Right.
And I know personally how strong you are. Like you just mentioned, you do have children with struggles, and dealing with kids with special needs of sorts, and a marriage that's failing, and trying to love someone who's difficult to love and keep the family united and
Right.
fulfill your covenants to the Lord. All of that stuff kind of just lands on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just, from knowing you, I can see how, even though that was tough, I can see how that strengthened you, even though you wouldn't want to do it again, but that's made you stronger now, right? Like it's made
Right.
you who you are now.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
I
would you wanna go
definitely.
back and do it would you relive again just to learn what you've learned and gain the strength, or would you prefer not to?
Well, I mean, if I could do it differently and still learn the same things, that would be nice, but I don't know that that's possible. I mean,
It's a refiner's fire.
this is how I got here. This is the journey that I was on. Without him, I wouldn't have my kids.
Yeah.
And even with their struggles, like, I love them so much. And, like, I couldn't have done that without him. So
do you worry? Because this is one of my fears, because I've got a couple kids that need a little extra love or different type of parenting. Do you worry when it comes to trying to find a spouse that is going to be a key issue? So you'll have to.
most definitely. Yeah. All three of them have, struggled in their testimony. They've all fallen away. So that's kind of a, how do they fit into a possible family with other kids,
Right.
that is a concern. Yeah.
So what do you think that the Lord is, I mean, obviously I believe, do you think he's preparing someone that would be willing to take that on and love your kids where they're at?
Yeah, I would hope so. Definitely
What
hope
are you
so.
looking for? Who are you looking for?
I
Let's
have
get it
no
out there.
idea.
There's
I
guys
have no idea.
Come on.
That's another redhead. She's looking.
Come on.
She's got the red thing on.
What are you
No,
looking for?
not another redhead.
It's okay to have preferences in my mind. So all the haters out there that don't like the preference list, then just send me the hate mail. Don't send it to Charlene. Charlene,
Blessed.
Or
give
me.
us
Put
Don't
me on
send
the
it to me.
spot.
yeah, send it to me. I want your list.
I don't know. It's a lot of personality, and I mean, there's looks that go with it too, but
Which would mean what?
oh gosh.
I'm not gonna let you down. I'm not gonna let you go. I'm gonna keep poking at you till the end.
Yeah, so we got to
Okay.
find a guy that's going to like match up well with you. So like, how tall are you?
Good luck. How tall am I? 5'7".
5'7". Okay, so you and Celeste are pretty close. You
She's
might
tall.
have like
I'm
half
much
an
taller
inch.
than Celeste.
You're an inch taller than me.
Oh,
So
And
I'm
when I wear
gonna
my
jump
shoes,
in
I'm
here.
taller than you.
I'm gonna jump in here really quick and kind of help Charlene out a little bit because she's getting a little ganged up.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Terry.
So some of us, not saying any names, Celeste, some of us actually don't really have a certain type that we know. It's just we'll know when we see them or talk to them. It really is, for me, it goes deeper than that. It goes, can I have a deep discussion with this person? Can I have fun with them?
Right.
We just mesh well personality wise. I don't care. I mean, that person could be the ugliest thing on the planet and I don't care, because our personalities is what would make it great. So I think that's what Charlene's saying. She doesn't really have a physical.
Oh, but she does.
But
she does.
Okay. Well, let me paint the picture for Charlene here. He's definitely a guy.
Definitely a guy.
He's taller than her. He probably has nice eyes, a nice smile, and yeah.
Terry, you're like spot on. Good job.
Right. Like I said, I'm helping a girl out.
Thank
guys
you.
are like bonding over here, but the thing is, that's very vague. Give us one specific preference.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it could be anything from like he's LDS to like I like guys that are taller than me to.
Well, yeah, I do.
I tried.
Okay. Fine. One, I like tall. Okay, like
Okay,
6 foot is nice.
6 foot or above.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, that works.
Yeah.
That works.
There, you happy?
Thank you,
There
Charlene.
we go. Yes. So, well, I want to go back a little bit and talk a little more about the PTSD and your kids.
Okay.
And I guess my big concern is like I'm thinking of my kids, and that would be something like I would want to protect them from at all costs.
Mhm.
So what is their relationship like with their father now? Was it bad growing up with them, or did he mainly like kind of sort of target all of his stuff, I don't know, the PTSD towards you? How did that look inside the
I
family?
don't think he really targeted it towards anybody. It was kind of a free for all. But like
The
my
kids felt it,
oldest, oh,
right?
they definitely, yeah, my
Okay.
oldest felt it the most. Like she was the most aware of it. And it was really hard to watch because she was a daddy's girl. Like she just wanted his approval,
Mhm.
but her emotions, she just has huge emotions. She's either super happy, super sad, super mad. I mean, she just feels everything to the extreme. And because he doesn't handle emotion very well, he would just tell her all the time that she was too much. You're too happy, you're too loud, too whatever.
So he kind of pushed that down a little bit.
Oh, very much. Yeah. She ended up just like bottling up all of her emotions just so she felt like she could be around him, like he could tolerate her. And it was really hard to watch.
Okay.
And then my son, I feel like he learned a lot of anger from his dad and not just being able to work through his feelings. So he deals a lot with that. Just his anger issues.
So he's got those two, and he's how old now? 14, I think you said?
He's 15, yeah.
15.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, are they in therapy? Are they seeing somebody to kind of work through some of this stuff?
My oldest is. Yeah, I haven't gotten my other kids in it yet.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's something that, I mean, I think about that all the time with the kids, and there's this fine line. People talk about the generations growing up being spoiled and things like that, but I certainly look at the things that I struggled with growing up, and I want to protect my kids from those
Mhm.
as much as possible. I want them to have better than what I had. So, yeah, PTSD or something like that in the home, if somebody was really dumping that kind of a load emotionally on my kids, that would be very difficult for me to handle.
Right. It was extremely difficult.
Did you guys ever get into a situation where it became physical?
No,
Okay.
thankfully not.
Never anything like punching the walls or anything of that.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, there was never anything physical. He really just like shut down all emotion,
Okay.
all of it. He would come home from work and just want to play video games until it was time to go to bed. He would just zone out.
It was
Not
probably his
spend time-
own way of just coping.
Right.
Like
Right. It was.
My son likes to use video games or anything computer wise to just kind of block out the world because it gets
Mhm.
overwhelming. And so I think a lot of people use that as a coping mechanism to just not deal with what they've got going
Right.
on in their life.
Right.
So do you
Yeah.
plan on doing counseling with someone maybe that you're interested in dating? Do you
I would be
value
totally up to
counseling?
that. Yeah. I'd be open for that. Yeah. I'm not in counseling at the moment, but yeah, I'd be open to that.
Do you think it'd be a benefit?
Oh, probably. You know, making sure
'Cause
we're
I
on the
know-
same page of how to communicate and
Yeah.
you know,
Because your
make
mom's a
things work.
therapist, right?
Yeah.
So you know the value of therapy and how that
Yeah.
can benefit.
Yeah. I
and-
mean, she doesn't do therapy with family. You know,
No,
they
no,
can't.
right,
But
But she can also like push you to say, hey, look, while I can't be your therapist, I would definitely say this is a situation that needs therapy.
right.
Find
Right.
somebody, or I can recommend somebody or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She could do that.
So where were they during this whole thing, they being your parents of you and your marriage? Were they coming along saying, okay, look, Charlene, some things aren't going quite right here. We need to like talk about possibly getting you guys some help or somebody to talk to or something? Did they just not, they didn't know anything about
No.
it?
Well, I mean, they kind of knew because the last 4 years of the marriage, we've lived with my parents. I'm still with my parents. But I mean, so they saw it and they felt it all. but they never like jumped in and said, hey, this is not right, or something's wrong here, it needs to be fixed. Like they never jumped in and said that. They just kind of left it up to me to figure out, I guess.
Is that more their personality type? They're going to let you deal with your life as like almost like a form of just respect to you, or is it just their personality type?
No, I just think it's their personality types. I mean, they just, that it was kind of like that my whole life. They were never really super involved in anything. So kind of had to figure everything out on my own.
I think that was the hard part with mine as well, because my parents, I remember my mom one time saying something like, I tried to warn you before and you chose this. So you made your bed and you get a line.
Right.
And it's just, you know, it's just one of those things where I was like, oh, you know, but also told me that I couldn't talk to her about stuff. And so then later on, she came to me, she's like, why didn't you tell me any of the stuff? And I was like, you shut me out.
Yeah.
I had nobody to turn to. You shut me out. So she's gotten better with that, with awareness and, you know, me just basically telling her. And she knows when I don't want to talk about it, but she also knows that I will come to her when I'm ready.
Yeah.
So it can be hard for parents, I think, at sometimes, because even me as a parent, I don't know when to step in, when to just say, okay. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, do you want me to listen or do you want some advice?
Right.
But I think our parents collectively just weren't taught those tools.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So looking back, Charlene, at the whole thing, you know, probably one of the first things people are going to ask you is, well, why didn't you seek out any counseling? And you already mentioned the money issue, and that was something there. But let me ask you another question. You know, somebody who comes home from being deployed, you've now had a baby, they haven't been in your home, they come back and immediately it just kind of like doesn't really work. Was there a part of you that felt like, you know, even if I could get therapy, I just really don't want to be here?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't just that, but I didn't feel like he would even open up. Even if we did couples counseling, like that was not something he was open to. So it was like, what's the point of even thinking of doing it?
Yeah, like that's a valid point. Like toward the end of my marriage, when I said I didn't want to be married anymore. That's when my ex was like, well, let's get therapy. But at that point, it was like, if we got therapy now, would you be honest? Because there was a lot of things that weren't being talked about, and he couldn't be honest. And so, yeah, if you're not willing to actually be a part of the therapy and be open, willing to share, being honest, like therapy is useless in those scenarios. Both
Right.
people have to want it and want to have it to help.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would have a hard time. Like if I got into a marriage and then let's say we're having a baby, switch roles for whatever reason, she's deployed and she comes back and it's just, for lack of a better way to put it, it's pure hell being at the house when they're there.
Yeah.
I've been in homes like that before, right? Like where for whatever reason, things just do not work, right? It feels like you're kicking against the pricks or going against the grain or however you want to put it the whole time. And
right.
When you're in a situation like that, it feels more like, well, I'm just going to kind of duck down and go into survival mode rather than to try and find ways to make this work and be productive.
Right.
So
that's all the energy I had was to be in survival mode. Yeah. I really didn't have anything left over except to just make it through the day.
Did you find yourself praying for the power just to make it through the day?
Because
that was my daily.
Yes.
Like, just help me through today. Because I couldn't even think beyond that.
Exactly.
The week,
exactly.
I couldn't think the month. I couldn't think anything beyond, please just let me through this day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't even sure if I was going to make it through the day. So.
Well, and I found myself having my own anger issues, like when my kids were little, and like recognizing that in myself. And then I had to use what little energy I had to try to fix that because I didn't want to be doing that myself to my kids. So yeah, it was just a lot of just trying to focus on what I could.
Yeah, absolutely. So he comes.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead.
So my ex and I actually did couples therapy. We went away from the church. Originally, it was suggested to go through the church and do it, and then we opted to not do that. We did a couple sessions with the therapist that was suggested, and then we just branched out on our own and found one. And I, at times, it felt like it helped, but it didn't. For myself, at least. And I remember thinking, well, this is a slap of reality here. I felt like I had a baseball bat that just hit me in the forehead. And I think honestly, my divorce probably happened faster because of that. When I just finally said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then I thought, okay, I'll pick up the pieces off the floor. I'll give myself a month, but then I'm going to throw myself right back into therapy and figure out what I contributed to this whole thing.
Right.
I still attend, like even with the kids and everything else and certain issues and stuff, I still attend during those difficult moments where you're like, what is going on? You know, but I can definitely see how it's hard when you're in the thick of it, you know, to just try and say, okay, you know, even a year later, it's still tough. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you've kind of gone through this marriage that it sounds like never really got off the ground.
No, it
Never
didn't.
really just was anything that you wanted. 18 years is a long time to be in survival mode.
Yeah.
Granted, you had 4 reprieves there, and well, I would say maybe 3 because you didn't know you were in survival mode till after the first one.
Right.
But still, like, what kept you in that situation? Why didn't you just kind of say, you know what, this is going on to my kids. It's going to affect them as they get older. Like, I'm out, like, I'm done. Why not throw in the towel earlier?
Well, I think finances did play a big part of it. And I hate to say that, but I mean, it really did. Like, I didn't know how he was going to move out. You know, his pay was really fluctuating, you know, being an HVAC technician. It was not stable income. How is he going to move out? How is he going to help me with the kids? Like, I didn't have a job for a long time. So it's like, financially, I didn't know how to make it work. And, you know, just the bigger part was I really wanted to make my marriage work. I really wanted to give it the time that it deserved, you know, give him the opportunity. I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Well, you know,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because our topic tonight is kind of twofold, like coming to accept the choice that we make to get a divorce, and then obviously defending that choice. But I know for you that was a long battle with yourself.
It was.
To come to the conclusion of this isn't going to work and I'm going to file for divorce. Like, that was a battle for you. Can you explain why?
Yeah, I mean, it took 12 years from the start of when I started thinking about divorce to actually coming to terms with, yeah, this is what needs to happen. And it's kind of weird how it happened, because it was really when he started seeing that things, like our marriage was not what he thought it was. Like, everything wasn't all good. And he came to me and was like, yeah, I think something's wrong in our marriage. And I'm like, yeah, it has been for a long time. And he actually went to Utah to visit his mom to try to think things through, because like it was hitting him upside the head like a ton of bricks. And we decided to try counseling. We were going to try counseling and try to figure out if we could make it work, and talk to our bishop. And it took 2 months for the bishop to get back with us. And he's like, look, the counselor I'm trying to get you in with, he's really not responding. We can go with a different therapist. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. And he looks over at John and he goes, or my ex, sorry, names. He's like, what do you think about that? And he goes, oh, whatever. And my bishop was like, you know, you're going to have to talk to a therapist if you're going to make this work. And he goes, yeah, we'll see. And that was kind of the final nail in the coffin, where it was just like, okay, you're not even open to this, to like trying to fix this. And I'm exhausted. Like, I'm so beat up and exhausted. Like, I don't have the energy to do this myself. I can't fix this myself. And so it was kind of that realization, like, he's not willing to put in the work to fix it. So like, this has to be done. And so that was just kind of the end of it.
Because you can't do enough for two, right? That
Right.
was something I had to come to grips with. It's like, I can't want this enough for both of us.
Right.
I can't do enough for both of us, right? Like, I can only do me, and the other side of the equation has to have effort into the marriage.
Exactly.
Or else it's not going to go anywhere, no matter if we want it to or not. So that's tough. That's a tough moment.
Yeah.
when you
Yeah. It was
realize
pretty.
I can't do enough for both of us.
Yeah.
What were you guys doing together spiritually? Did you guys go to the temple together? Did you do anything like that together? Did you hold callings, all that kind of good stuff?
We both held some callings. We did go to the temple every once in a while. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot. I wish we went more. We were trying to do family scriptures and family prayer in the evenings, but even then it was like I was taking charge of it. He was just kind of there. So it was still me doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Did
tough.
you feel like your connection got a little bit stronger after doing that, or did it just kind of stay the same?
No, it stayed the same. I mean, the frustration was there because he wasn't leading anything. He wasn't like trying to help the family. I didn't feel like he was trying to help the family get stronger. You know, he was just kind of there.
Yeah.
Did y'all do like couples prayer at the end of the day, like kneel down together and pray?
We tried doing that after talking with the bishop that first time, and reading scriptures together and stuff. It just didn't go anywhere. Yeah.
Well, so you go through counseling, and you know, my experience with counseling is anytime you go in, I feel like 99% of the time what they're going to do is say, okay, here's what we got to do, starting off base ground rules. Charlene, you're going to focus on you, and your ex, he's going to focus on him. You're not going to try and fix each other, right? You're just going to kind of work on your own issues and see where you can go. I know plenty of people who go into counseling and say, if only we can fix that other person, then everything's going to be okay. And I think that's usually when the counselor's like, that's just not how it works. That's not reality. Like, you can only do you. You can't change anybody. You can't make anybody do anything. So getting into counseling, I mean, just kind of from what you've told me, I would think if you go in there and you're like, look, I'm here, I'm willing to do the hard work. And he's just like, you know, I'm not willing to do any work. Then you're really just wasting time and money.
Exactly.
I don't know. I guess I'm kind of always of the opinion that you go a couple times and maybe the counselor has tools or ways to kind of divert things back to say, hey, look, this person's doing their work, but we need to like get you started. Like, it's kind of like we're firing on half the cylinders here. We need to somehow jumpstart the other half of the
Right.
work. So
Did you ever have a moment where you're like, when you're trying, like he's saying, you need to try to get the other side going as well, because it's fruitless if only one person's trying, right? Did you, when that moment when you realized they're not going to try like this, they're not going to do their part, like, how did you handle that moment? Like, because that, for me, that was a big one. That was a big one to accept. Okay, Celeste, you're doing all you can, and the other person isn't even going to want to try. So you have to kind of accept that, like, I do not have control. I cannot fix this alone. So how did you manage with that moment?
Honestly, I mean, it just kind of felt like more of the same from the whole marriage. I mean, I felt that way the whole time, that he wasn't putting in any effort to make anything better. And so it was just like, well, you know, there it is again. He's just proving my point. So it was just kind of like one of those, all right, that's that's it. You could see something was wrong. You have acknowledged something was wrong, and then you're not willing to do anything.
So this
to fix
sounds
it.
like, this sounds though, I mean, you keep saying this, and this sounds like it was from the very beginning.
Mhm.
How did you make it last 18 years? Why did you make it last 18 years?
I don't know.
What's
I
the
don't
Question
know.
definition
though,
of
right?
It is a good question, and I don't know how it got why it lasted so long. It didn't feel like the right time to do it. I guess. I don't know. It just didn't feel like the right timing.
Oh, I have a question.
Yep.
So you were talking about earlier that you had no communication in the relationship. Did you try to tell him things that bothered you or things that you could work on, and he just kind of dismissed it? Or
Yes.
how did you put it? Okay, because
Yeah.
because I think one of the realizations that I had was one time I was talking to a friend and I was like, yeah, my marriage is great. We have no communication. And she gasped and she goes, you have no relationship. If you have no communication, you have no relationship.
There's
And
none.
maybe that's why it's so great, because we don't talk. And I didn't have a friendship with my ex-husband. Like, we weren't friends at all. And I really firmly believe that now. Like, you have to develop a core, and it has to be based around communication, because how else are you supposed to get your needs met if you're not
Right.
communicating with each other? So I was just curious if you kind of had that same experience where you were trying to voice your concerns and then he just dismissed it. Like,
Yeah.
his problem, it's everyone else's.
Yeah. The one situation that really comes to my mind was my oldest got really frustrated and like really felt like he didn't love her like at all because of the way he was talking to her. And she voiced those concerns to me. And I went to him that same night and said, hey, like, the way you're talking to her, the way you're treating her makes her feel this way. And he said, oh, I can't help how she feels. It's like there was no acknowledgement, no acceptance of his behavior and the things that he was doing. And that was like, I remember that moment was really like, I can't talk to you about anything, about any feelings. Like, there's nothing there.
And there's also this trust too. I don't know if you felt this way too, but you have something private and personal that you want to discuss with them, and then they go off and tell everybody else. And you're like, why am I even confiding in you if you're going to go off and tell the world?
Yeah, I didn't have that issue. He didn't talk to anybody. So
okay. So my ex would go into church and he would tell all the guys this stuff, and then the guys would tell their wives, and the wives would come up to me, and I was like, this was like 10 minutes.
no.
It was horrible.
No, didn't have that issue.
So Charlene, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. And say, I'm trying to picture being in a marriage for 18 years and not having any sort of good times in this, not having any sort of moments where you're like, yeah, things are all right now. Things are moving forward. Like, we're getting along. Things are okay. Like, it couldn't have been bad for 18 years and you stayed the whole time, minus the deployments, of course.
Right. I mean, there were good moments, but more often than not, it was just uncomfortable. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like extremely bad. It wasn't, I don't know, like, I don't want to use the word abusive or anything like that. It was just uncomfortable all the time.
Just kind of felt like you were in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you go to this meeting with the bishop and you're sitting there and your ex is kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if we can find a therapist, or like, whatever. Is that the moment when you're like, it's done, I'm filing? This is like no more after this?
It took a couple of days to really like come to the conclusion.
Okay. And once you went and filed, what did he do? Was he like, or was he full steam ahead? Like, no, I don't want this. I want to make it work. Or
oh no, so I had gone to him, 3 days later and said, look, I don't think this is going to work. And he's like, you know what, you're probably right. And like, we actually agreed to how we wanted our divorce to look before I even went to the lawyer. I walked in with our list and said, just write it up. They
And
wrote
you
it
just
up
had
and I
one
took it to
lawyer.
him and signed it. Yeah, he didn't even get a lawyer.
Yeah.
So he was just ready to go and like, all right,
Mhm.
let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
Did you struggle with guilt at all coming to that conclusion?
No, not really.
Because
No.
you guys have been,
I had gone so many years of just not having that love for him in a way that a wife should love a husband, even though like I loved him as a person because I tried really hard to do that, to try to make things work and be as pleasant as possible at home. But yeah, that wasn't there. Like, so the guilt wasn't there when it came time.
That's interesting because I had a lot of guilt with mine.
I
And
did too.
mine was different. He had multiple affairs, including he had an affair with my sister. And he just led this very, like, everything was hunky dory and my family loved him. And I didn't talk to my family. And then all of a sudden, when I was like, I'm leaving, I became the bad guy. And I had a lot of guilt with that. And in fact, at moments, I was like, I should just go back because I don't want to live with this. And I was like, no, this is going to make me stronger in the long run.
Did they
So
know the story behind why you were filing? Did they know about the affairs?
no, they actually didn't at the time. Like I said, I just shoved everything down and I didn't want them thinking anything differently of him. I didn't want their opinion of him. But I just finally said, no more. And this is it. And literally came down to when he called me and said, I'm so sorry, but I'm having a baby with another woman. And I was like, I am too, but I'm okay with that. And I was, and I hate to say it, but it gave me every excuse to leave him at that moment. And I was like, yes, I felt so relieved. But the first thing I did is I went and so both of them came to pick up the kids for visitation. And I went and I congratulated her and told her that I hoped that we could co-parent together and be great moms to the kids. And then I instantly went and forgave him.
Wow.
Which is a
That's all I
huge
could do.
benefit for you, right? Like you didn't have to
Yeah.
carry that burden.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not that way today. So, I did my part and that's all I could do.
Yep. You can't control the other side of the coin. That's what I came to realize. Yep.
Yeah.
So Charlene,
Mm.
obviously, it sounds like you feel like you made the right choice. And I would be willing to bet by his reaction of kind of like, fine, let's just do this. Like, it didn't sound like he had a whole lot of intention to put much into it either.
No.
He was
Yeah,
just kind of like, let's just do this. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, we both kind of felt peace when it came to making the decision, like it was time. We both kind of got that confirmation that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. How did your kids feel about it?
My oldest seemed to be totally for it. She was not a fan of him for, obvious reasons for how he talked to her and stuff. She was not his biggest fan for many years.
But she lives with him now, right?
But now, yeah, there's been a lot of drama since then, but
okay.
My other two, I think they were kind of oblivious to what was going on. So they were kind of taken by surprise by it, but they handled it pretty well considering.
Okay.
So
That's good. And I think that it's great that you two, despite the history and the challenges and stuff, that you guys are able to co-parent well with your kids and you guys have a good relationship and that you don't bring, bitterness and anger and stuff into the environment with your children because that's not a benefit to kids. And so I think that some people kind of might look at that and be like, well, if you guys were really good friends and are really good friends, then why aren't you still married? Yeah. So like, what was the issue? Right.
Exactly.
But the truth is like, sometimes, like you said, you can be much better friends after the marriage versus within the marriage. So
yeah. And we have had people questioning that exact thing. And it's like, well, it just those feelings are not there. I respect him and I love him as a person, but that type of love is not there.
Okay. So you end it, you move on, you're like, we're done. I'm heading back out into the singles world for the first time in nearly
During COVID.
during COVID. Yeah. So, and I assume during COVID you met Celeste, right? I actually don't know when or how you guys met. I don't know that.
Oh, we had a luncheon
Ooh.
together, and we were the two sitting at the table, not saying a word.
Oh, the two quiet.
We were just like eyes wide open, like, what the heck did we get ourselves into?
We're like, is this really what goes on in the underground singles world? We're like, what?
It was crazy.
Nice.
It's been almost a year, Celeste.
I know, almost exactly.
Almost. That's
What,
crazy.
July, I think.
Yeah.
Ish.
Something like that. I don't remember
July.
when it was.
Yeah.
Well, now, Charlene, I know you have been in, I think, more than one relationship.
Oh gosh, one several times, but yes.
One several times.
One-ish. One on repetition.
Yeah. So when you get in these relationships, is it tough for you? Do you start to feel any of those past? I mean, this is a big thing. I'm sure you've probably seen it on the Facebook groups and other dating sites and things where people take their baggage with them.
Mm-hmm.
So especially if you haven't worked through that, you haven't gone through counseling, your mom would probably tell you this a million times over. Like, it's not like baggage just kind of leaves. It's like, you got to process it. You got to work through that. You've got to somehow like not take those past experiences and project them onto the next person, the next relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So how have the relationships been for you?
I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, he was not a member. This last relationship I was in.
Okay.
And he really struggled with beliefs of ours. And I mean, that was a lot of the crux of why I ended up leaving, because he couldn't accept things that I wanted to do. So, you know, that is kind of a requirement now, is, you know, dating members that have the same beliefs.
So that is your type when we talk about types.
That is a type for sure. But yeah, I mean, he was a really great guy. You know, I felt like he treated me pretty good, a lot better than my ex-husband. So it was a step up, but there still was a lot of room to be better. What are you smiling at, Celeste?
Because you know my opinion on this topic.
Yes, I know.
So Charlene is amazing, and she deserved better. I'm just going to throw that out there. And so, as much as he may have been a very nice guy, she deserves to be treated even better than how he was treating her. So I'll just leave it at that.
Spoken like a true friend.
Yeah, that's right, like a bestie.
I kept it real with her. She knew exactly how I felt about all of it.
You sure did.
Well, one of the things that I see a lot for people who, especially people who are married for a long time and didn't like really, you know, date. I don't know how much you dated before you're married, so I shouldn't.
Not much.
Let's just say it's been a while since you've been in the dating scene, right? And even those who maybe have been in the dating scene for a while, one of the things that I think people really struggle with is knowing what kind of things that they are looking for, in the sense of not necessarily types, right? Like, I like blondes, or I like tall guys, or whatever. Like, people can have those, that's fine. But I mean, what kind of things do you really need for you? Like, what are your weaknesses that you bring to the table that you say, okay, this is me. This is where like I have weaknesses. This is where I have shortfalls. And so I'm really going to need to have somebody who's going to say, with my weaknesses, like, I don't care, or that's okay. Like, my strengths like counter those weaknesses in a great way, and we complement each other. So I would think, just, this is me totally going off the cuff, but you dating some guy multiple times that isn't a member, that doesn't really share a lot of your beliefs or believe in a lot of the things that you don't like or that you believe that and he doesn't like, that's kind of you at that point not knowing exactly what kind of fit you need for your life, what it is that you're looking for. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. And
okay.
And it's also really finding my self-worth, which has always been a struggle. So like really coming to terms with that and seeing my worth and seeing what I can, like I want a 10, but you know, maybe I can only get a 5. So like, that's kind of like where I have been. So just really building up to, I want that 10. I want to get that 10.
And that you deserve the 10.
And then I deserve
absolutely,
the 10. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is what I think for everybody, right? Like we all deserve a 10. And a 10 might look different for Terry, for Charlene, for Celeste,
right,
for me, for everybody, right? A 10 is going to be completely different, but we're talking about getting married. If we're kind of going through church standards, we're looking at eternity, right? And so maybe in a way we go back to some of that logic that, you know, some of the old timers would tell us like, well, make sure you date them a long time. And these are people that dated for 6 weeks and got married, right? So maybe to them, they're feeling like, look, for eternity, be choosy, right? Don't just settle and say, well, I think I'm only worth a 4 or a 5 or a 6.
Right.
You're worth a 10. Everybody is worth a 10. And if you don't find your 10, don't do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't go for a guy who is not a member of the church or doesn't share your beliefs or whatever, just because he's there.
Agreed.
And I see posts like that on the Facebook groups, and it makes me sad. Like, I kind of think like some of these people will settle for somebody with a pulse and like they speak the same language. I'm like, okay, we need to raise the bar here a little bit, people. Right?
Agreed.
So
for sure.
Now
that's why I have Celeste to keep reminding me.
I do on the daily. I tell her how amazing she is and that she does not need to settle. And like was just mentioned in the chat here is that people on the Facebook groups make you feel bad for being picky. They'll like rip you apart if you're waiting for the perfect person. They're like, well, don't be so picky. And it's like, no, I deserve to be picky. Go ahead, Terry.
I was gonna say the reason why they do that, it's just observation here, is because they themselves don't feel worthy of other people or like what they deserve. So they would rather shoot somebody down and say, no, you're too picky. Why are you saying that? Why are you doing this? And you're over there going, why does it matter what I want? You know, does it affect you? So I think that sometimes people just can't get out of their own head and they end up sabotaging themselves quite frequently.
Right.
It's almost like they become offended, like they feel like you're talking about them, which then reflects what you're saying, that they just have a low self-esteem of sorts. And so they internalize it. Yeah. But no, Charlene, be picky. Absolutely.
Well, Charlene, also, besides just being picky, realize too that you are a 10. You are a 10 to the right person, right? Yes. And that's what's most important. And that's where people get so offended on those Facebook groups because they feel like I'm a 5. And so somebody who's going to be picky is going to look me or pass me up because I'm a 5, not look at me. But the right person is going to see that you're a 10. You're not going to be a 10 for everybody. Nobody.
Here's the other thing too. To the right person, it's not going to matter what you think of you. All it's going to matter is what they think of you. And they're going to think you just own the world to them. Mm-hmm. And they're right. Flaws and embrace them. They're going to see your imperfections and love them. They're going to see you for you and what you can offer. And you guys are going to just balance each other out. And it's just going to be a great, compatible relationship.
Agreed.
Now, does that mean you're going to be perfect? No.
Nobody is.
That's why I said imperfections.
Yeah. I mean, the real trick is, we've all got something that is not right about us. We've all got weaknesses given to us by design, right? Like the Lord has even mentioned, like, I give men weaknesses. So these things are meant to keep us humble, to kind of have us turn to the Lord and have us try and work through these things. But I think being in denial of our weaknesses does us all a huge disfavor, right?
Right. Yeah.
It just kind of tells us that, okay, I don't have anything to work on. I'm going to find someone else who is going to fix my weaknesses or make me whole. And that is really a recipe for disaster, right?
Right.
And I think somebody said it that basically the best formula is to take yourself and make yourself the best person you can be for that other person. And if the other person's willing to do the same, then you've got a winning formula. So
agreed. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. So then, having said that, now the curiosity starts to set in of like, what? And now I know some of them, like,
oh gosh,
a little bit. Like, what kind of things, if you had guys that were looking today to say, man, Charlene's got red hair and that totally turns my crank, like that gets my motor going, right? Like, what kind of things would you say, all right, guys, but with red hair comes like red hair traits, right? Like the fiery attitude, or are you like that?
Oh, no, I don't really have that. I do have a little bit of sass.
She's a little sassy, but the thing is Charlene, the reason why Charlene and I get along so it's like she's zero drama. Like neither of us like drama. And so that aspect she does not have of redhead. She doesn't want to just blow things out of proportion and cause drama. Like, no, that is not her at all. She's very logical and thoughtful and zero drama, which is super awesome. We're very
Celeste, what have you told him though?
I say nothing but good things about you. I promise you. I adore you. So
no, it has been all good things, but
okay.
So I'm trying to like get this out of you without like saying it. So I'm trying to figure out how to like formulate this. But if I was like, let's say I was dating you.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I've got some quirks or I've got some things. Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I know you know.
Trying to figure out, I'm like, where's he going with this? But I didn't.
Oh, come on, Celeste.
Now you know.
You know where he's going.
I did it. It wasn't until you got it that I got it. I was like, oh, now I know.
got it when he first brought it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Charlene knows. She's dancing around it though.
I'm like all being red now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first? I have OCD.
Go ahead.
Certain things that I like to eat and drink and listen to. And it is very repetitious. And it probably drives a lot of people crazy. All right.
She does like to have her I's dotted and her T's crossed. That's for sure.
That I do.
It's like, come on, we need a subject. We need a subject.
If I have something that I have to get done and someone's in my way, I will plow you over until I get my information.
This is true.
I will.
I've seen that side of her too. I was like, whoa.
All right. Well, since Everett really wants to know, I've
dying to know.
But you probably already know. So like,
anyway.
Poquito, just a little bit. That's all. So I want the full enchilada.
Well, you can have the full enchilada because I probably won't eat it.
She's not gonna want it.
There we go.
But give her the pizza. She'll take all the pizza.
Give me the pizza, pepperoni pizza. I will eat it. Yeah. No, I've been, you would call it extreme picky eating, but it's really more of an eating disorder. That just makes it really hard to eat a variety of food and try foods. And so I have very limited foods that I eat.
Okay.
Very limited.
Is this something you've gone into like the doctor for or something like that and said, hey, like I can't do these types of foods?
I have not. No, this has just been something I've dealt with literally my whole life.
Is it a texture thing?
It's texture, it's a smell, it's the sight of it. I mean, it's literally all the senses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes she can get it in her mouth and she wants to eat it, but it's like her brain won't let her.
It does. Yeah. My throat will like close up. Yeah.
Have you ever tried to like just think of other things and just get it down and like a juice?
Yep. Can't do it.
Really?
Yeah, my throat will literally close up. Yeah.
Interesting. I have a family in my ward who their kids, at least one of the sons, has like a real aversion to certain textures with food. And they were telling me about kind of his, like it's a very, very particular diet he has to go on. And that can drive some people crazy, you know, like I know for me, like with my work, I deal a lot with, you work in a doctor's office, you probably know this, like reps bring your office lunches, right? And so I do that.
Yeah, I never order anything.
You never order anything?
No, I never order anything. No.
The one thing that always drives me insane is when like I call up the office, like, hey, okay, so I've got you guys tomorrow for lunch. Like, I just got to get a head count and find out if there's any special diet restrictions or anything like that I need to plan for. There's always someone, and especially because I live here in Portland, right? They're like, well, I'm gluten-free and I prefer like crushed flour versus like milled flour. Like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like, I'm just going to do like whatever you get. Like, I would just tell that person to pack a lunch tomorrow because it's not going to work out for them.
Right. Seriously.
So, but there's always got to be somebody, right? And this is something.
I am that person.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is something for me that would be tough because I'm a garbage disposal. Like, I just eat anything. Like literally, this is how bad it is. I went one time I was going to a movie and it was raining and I stopped in this shoddy kind of gas station convenience store right across the street. Cause I'm like, all right, I'm going to like grab some snacks from there and just like hustle them into the theater with me. Well, I got like a stick of beef jerky because I was starving and I dropped it in a mud puddle right outside the door when I was getting in my car. I was like, forget that crap. I paid for that. I'm still eating it. So I dug it out of the mud puddle. I brushed it off. I took it in and I ate it. I didn't care. Like, look, whatever. I mean, I've had worms before on my mission. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to die? Probably not. But, you know, maybe rinse it off with a little water or something so it tastes okay. It doesn't taste like mud, but whatever, right? Like, that's me. I just eat it. Like, I don't even care. So, I guess my point being with this whole thing is at the end of the day, none of us are going to have kind of the perfect setup of like issues and things like that for somebody else. But finding the right person that will be your 10, it won't be an issue, right?
Right.
You guys are you and Celeste chatting back and forth? Is that what
No.
So
No, but I want to second that. This is the thing, because all of us have our own quirks. I mean, it is what it is. But when the right person comes along, that quirk's not going to be an issue, right? So, Charlene, your obsession with CC's is going to be something that the guy that's meant for you is going to adore.
Gonna have to.
It's like, I am so excited to take Charlene to CC's again for the 6th time this week. Like, he'll be okay with it. He'll be like,
He'll be okay with it. The people at CC's will know him just as much as they know me.
That's right. They'll start giving discounts. So, you know, it's
discounts on their $5 pizza.
I just, you're amazing. And I just want you to know that whoever it is not going to care about your food.
Yeah.
You know, not wanting to have certain foods. So it's like, I mean, I don't eat, well, okay. I really can't say this anymore. I usually don't eat sugar or carbs, and that's a challenge for a lot of people. But
okay, but you don't eat it because you have a food aversion to it. You have you don't eat it because you can't stop once you start. That's why.
Well, not necessarily.
True.
No.
Totally true.
I don't eat it because it messes my blood sugar up. That's why I really don't eat it. Now, if I do eat it, it can trigger my OCD, which is just who I am, and it can become an obsession. But it's short-lived, usually a month-ish, maybe, and I can move on to something else. But no, the real reason I don't eat them is because of my blood sugar. I have a hypoglycemic reaction to sugar, and so it's not fun. So I stopped. Not recently, I've kind of fallen off the wagon, but I stopped about 7 years ago. So
get her started on cinnamon rolls and watch what happens. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
You won't be able to stop.
I see the pictures of what she eats when she's leaving Washington.
Right.
My cinnamon rolls, my Big Mac.
Yep. So,
Exactly.
when you're talking about your food aversion, was this something that you and your ex fought over quite a bit?
No,
Probably.
no. I mean, he ate everything, so he just kind of ate whatever I ate, or he just made his own thing.
You only have like a handful of things you can eat. So he's like, okay, when we go to a restaurant, it's easy. Like I don't even have to ask or
Exactly. He never had to ask.
There's like 2 things that she'll eat. So
right. He knew what I would get at every restaurant that we would get food from. So
And there's nothing wrong with knowing what you're going to want to get at a restaurant.
exactly.
Right? If you go to the Thai place and you always get the red curry, there's nothing wrong with that. Right?
No.
It's all good.
Until Celeste tries something else, like, oh, this is really freaking good.
That was
Because I pushed her into trying something new. So yeah.
But
You never know if it's your favorite until you try it. So the only way you got your favorites on a menu was for trying it the first time. Had you never tried it for the first time, it never would have become your favorite.
Well, it's true.
that is true.
That
but
is
there's
true.
still nothing
But
wrong
it's easier said
what
than
you know.
done. So.
Right.
Yes. Well, if you legitimately have like a food aversion, and I think, I mean, I started going down the road with a guy from my ward, but I do believe they're on some sort of medication or there's like a therapy for that. So there's an official diagnosis. I don't know what it is. I just know that they have kind of spoken a little bit about it. And his son is like 100 feet tall and like, you know, a total stick. He's just like super, super rail thin. But I mean, they are aware of it and there is like some therapy around that. So
right. Yeah. My oldest had to go through it because they deal with the same thing.
okay.
So I've never been officially diagnosed.
I was going to say your child's been diagnosed, but you haven't. But
I have not been officially. It's the same thing, same exact symptoms. And like when we were getting her treatment, I was like, yeah, I do the same things. It's like, yeah, you got it too then. So
yeah.
But you know, I've been dealing with it for 30 plus years, you know.
So are you just at this point like, I don't really care to get
this is how I am, you know? Yeah.
What if you could like get it fixed though? Is that something that you would want to change?
Maybe like in the future, like when I feel like more stabilized, more comfortable, like I have a good support system around me. I don't feel like I could do it right now.
Okay. Do you kind of feel like you have a little bit of a low self-esteem?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Okay.
She shouldn't have a reason to, but she definitely I constantly am trying to help her see how amazing she is. So
well, I've heard a lot of good things about you from Celeste and all the
thank you.
amazing things that you are. So I think you have all the reason in the world to hold your head high. And I do think you are a 10 to the right person. And I love that saying, to the wrong person, you'll never have much worth, but to the right person, you'll mean everything. So to that person, you're going to be a 10. Don't ever look for a 5 and say, well, good enough, because you'll be in a marriage similar to what you had where you're like, yeah, it's not really what I want, but here we are.
It works. It's okay.
The thing is we're a 10 to our perfect match, no matter what anyone else thinks. So all of us, we're 10s. So
yeah, to the right person. And it's okay to be picky that way. So now, I mean, obviously, how long ago did the relationship end with the guy that you were sort of in and out of?
That ended for good back in March.
Okay. So we're talking like 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that time since then, like what's changed as far as if another guy came along that wasn't a member and starts throwing attention your way and says, Charlene, I just love redheads. Like I can't get enough of the red hair. Like you're my thing. I want to have you in a relationship. I think your church is weird and I don't believe in the beliefs you guys believe in, but I love your red hair. Like what's changed since that in you?
I think through that relationship, I learned that I want more and that I deserve more. So like, that's not an interest to me.
Okay.
To be with someone that doesn't have the same beliefs and doesn't have the same goals. of getting back to God. So
The thing is that Charlene offered a lot of respect and support for his beliefs, and he didn't give that in return. And so she needs to find someone who's going to give just as much as she's willing to give. That's what I think.
So what other things are you looking at now when you look at dating somebody else that you're like, all right, this is where I kind of draw the line. Like, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm not interested in.
I definitely need communication. Someone who's open about their feelings and thoughts and, what's going on in life. I did not get that in marriage, and I just need that, like that stability of knowing what's going on in the world around me, the world that I'm a part of. So that's a big one.
Was there ever a time where you felt like in your last situation where you were, or your last marriage, where you were like, maybe he's just living a double life because I literally don't connect with this guy. I don't know what's going on. Were you guys to that point?
In my marriage? Yeah, he just felt more like a roommate. I mean, we were both there. We interacted when we needed to, but like there was no relationship there at all.
Gotcha. And so since then, and the divorce, have you ever felt any sort of, I mean, we had talked a little bit about regret and all that. Have you felt any of that? Like, yeah, maybe I should have done X, Y, or Z or anything along those lines?
I mean, I wish I had, excuse me, like pushed a little bit more to try to get him to open up. Maybe just tried more, because I really just shut down really quickly. Just with everything that I was going through. As I said, it wasn't just him, it was a lot of kids stuff too. So like my emotional walls and boundaries were up, and like trying to protect myself too. So I don't know, just trying a little bit more to get him to open up and talk so we could work through things.
Yeah.
Communication's big.
So what kind of things did you guys do when you were together to try and like have meaningful conversation? Did you ever have date nights or?
No, we didn't do anything.
You guys never did anything together other than, well, every now and then you went to the temple, you said, and stuff like that.
Yeah. And, I mean, we went ziplining one time for an anniversary, like stuff like that, but it was never like the day-to-day, the little things that really build a relationship.
Yeah.
So how do you defend your choice then? So since you look back and think, okay, maybe I should have done something different. If someone questions your choice to divorce, how do you defend that then?
Just that it was between me and my ex and God. And, we both felt like it was time. And we felt like Heavenly Father was okay with it. That, I don't know. I did everything that I could with the tools that I had and the energy that I had to make it work. And it just didn't work. And it was okay to move on.
What did your bishop say when you guys got to that point? Was he like, all right?
Yeah, he was pretty much, okay, I'll support you in that.
I do believe there comes a point in time with a marriage, if it's not fostered properly, it can just sort of, for lack of a better word, rot, where it's not going to be fixable. You have to sort of tear it down and like rebuild.
Right.
Just replacing a little bit here and there and patching up holes. That's a sad situation to get in. I would say being on the other side, somebody who has kind of been in a marriage where my ex, for example, treated it like, she didn't care. She was going to run off with another guy or do whatever I want. And it just didn't matter. So to me, finding somebody who's going to be in a marriage 100% and is going to like put themselves into a marriage 100% is super important. Like if I was in a relationship with somebody, then I'm like, well, this person could bail if they're just like, well, it just wasn't what I wanted. And so I just kind of like, deuces, I'm out. That would be really tough for me. So if you were in a situation where somebody came up to you and they're like, my ex treated my marriage like it was really superficial and it was really just kind of like, if she's happy, she's fine. If she's not happy, she's leaving. What would you say to somebody like that? If they're like, I just don't want to date somebody along those lines, would you, and they thought that was you? Does that make sense? I maybe didn't word that questioning very well.
Yeah, try again.
Okay. So let me just paint the scenario here. Like,
Okay.
you and I are dating, right? And I'm like, well, Charlene, you know, my last marriage, my wife treated it like a dumpster, right? Like, well, if I'm getting everything I want at all times, fine. If not, then I'm leaving. Like, I'll just bounce or go have an affair or go do whatever. And the marriage to her was just completely all about her all the time, getting whatever she wanted. And I don't ever want to be in that situation again, honestly. So when I hear you in a situation like you had with your marriage, and I think, well, okay, you didn't do counseling. You could have done that. You didn't do these things. Like, how do I know that you didn't just kind of like give up on your marriage like my ex would have done? Like, how would I feel safe dating you, in other words?
Probably a good point. I mean, I did everything I could to try to make the marriage work. I mean, it didn't take all these extra things. I mean, I probably could have, but I don't know that it would have done any good. But you know, I put my all into my relationships. I want that communication. I want to know what they need so that I can, you know, provide that as much as possible. So like I want to be a partner. I want to be there for my person. So
yeah. I think really the whole bottom line of the question is, you know, if you and I were to get serious in a relationship, would you be all in? Right? Like, I don't want someone who's got one foot in, one foot out, or someone who's just like,
right.
no, if it's not working, then I'm going to bounce.
Right.
So to me, that would be my thoughts. I'm just kind of throwing that out there to kind of.
Yeah. That's not me. I don't feel like I run. Like, I want to work through challenges and really talk things through. But that's just how I roll.
Yeah.
And if someone is going to perceive Charlene in such a manner, then they're just blind.
And they don't know me very well.
And they didn't ask enough questions, and they didn't find out the whole story, because Charlene gave it her all. So,
well, true. Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. Like, I would say whatever happened is between you, your ex, and the Lord, and maybe the bishop or something, you know, or a counselor or somebody, but it's not my position to judge on something like that. I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate here, if I'm going through that situation, and truly this is like a concern of mine, because that is a real concern of mine, right? Like, my ex did bail. Like, I have no idea how many like other guys there were. And I mean, it was me always trying to band-aid things back together and keep things going. And she just couldn't care less. It was all about her all the time. And I never want to get into a situation like that again.
Right.
So to me, if I hear somebody who in their marriage, anything like remotely like that, I mean, part of that's my projection, right? Like, that's me projecting my experiences onto your past marriage, which definitely isn't fair. But at the same time, I want to make sure that this marriage is going to last if I'm going to get in again.
Right. I mean, if that was how I was, I wouldn't have been in 18 years.
Amen. You go, girl.
You know, like I would have been out at year 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, whatever year that was. I stayed 18 years because I was trying, because I wanted things to work.
There you go. See, that's the answer right there.
God.
How would I know? Like, you're going to be in there like, well, I gave it 18 years and I tried. And who am I to come along and say, like, you bailed early when you worked that out with the Lord and your bishop and everybody else? So there's your answer.
And sometimes people do judge from the outside if there isn't an affair. It seems like if there's an affair and there's somewhere, they like automatically like, oh, okay, That is a valid reason for divorce. Okay. But
I'll
sometimes
disagree with that.
they're
I-
like, they're
Terry's
well,
been quiet.
Yeah,
usually that's given, but if there's not an affair, people tend to be like, well, did you really give it your all? Could the marriage have lasted? I mean, did you really just grow apart or what? You know, like they tend to doubt, right? And the truth is, and I'm just going to be blunt, it's none of their business. Like all of us going through a divorce came to our own realization at whatever point in time. And I'm sure most of us, if not all, were very prayerful about coming to that conclusion if we were the one who filed. And no matter if there was an affair or not, sometimes people think that's valid, sometimes they don't. It's really no one else's business. And I think we as individuals need to give the benefit of the doubt to people and not assume what could have been going on behind the scenes. Charlene fought for years and years and years to keep her marriage. And I'm glad she finally got that answer. She was like, I'm like, come on, you got it, girl. Tell them the answer. And you know, yeah, I'm like, you're getting there. So that is just something that really irks me, where it's like people just feel like if there's no affair, it's not valid. But go ahead, Terry. I know you're going to say.
Okay, so I'm gonna enlighten you a little bit with my situation. Only my situation. Mine was involved with an affair, and I faced so much judgment from it. It was flipped over like I was the cause of it. I was the one having the affair. He could do no wrong, and it turned in he did the affair. And then what did I do to cause the affair? It turned into just a match between sides. And I had friends that obviously were not my friend anymore afterwards. He had friends that obviously weren't his friend afterwards. It just became ugly on all parts. I feel like if the relationship just isn't working and two people come together, and my friend had the same situation happen to her where her and her husband just sat down, they're like, look, we can't make this work. And they did try. They had a little bit more support and a little bit more understanding. Whereas it was just brutal on my end. It just constantly every Sunday, what'd you do? What happened? What made him go off and be with somebody else?
Yeah.
Those things are brutal.
Yeah.
So, I think that there's two sides to everything. And I think it just really depends on where you're at. And of course mine, 2006, okay, it wasn't really that common. But it's really made me, it makes me think about what I tell my friends when they're going through the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Charlene, this isn't a knock on you. We're kind of speaking a little bit in generalities. So I hope you don't feel like we're picking on you, but
this is the hot seat. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Like, we got to give you a little heat. So, it is just kind of a big concern. I have seen, and I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but there was a study done for couples that were quote unquote on the edge of divorce. They had just grown apart, weren't in love anymore, and felt like they needed to separate, right? So essentially they split the couples up. They kind of watched them in two groups. One of them decided, okay, we're going to get divorced. We're just going to move forward with that because we're not happy here. We've grown apart and we're going to seek greener pastures elsewhere. And then the other half went through therapy and decided, all right, we're going to stick it out. We're going to try and make this work, even though we feel like love is dead. There's nowhere else to go. Mm-hmm. They found that at the end of the 5-year study, looking back on these couples, that something like 90% of the couples who decided to stick it out actually were they reported being more in love than they had ever been before. And their marriage was in a great spot. A few of them just went ahead and it just didn't work and they got divorced. Mm-hmm. But the majority of them, 90% actually were saying that it was better. The couples that decided right off the bat, we're just not happy, we're going to seek greener pastures, reported being in about the same spot. They weren't more happy or more sad than they were. They were just kind of life hadn't dramatically improved by getting a divorce like they had hoped it would be. Right. So I think the point of that study was essentially when you're in a marriage, when things kind of feel dead, if you throw in everything you can to try and re-sparking it, you have a pretty good chance of making it work. Now, I can't say for your situation, right? Like that's something between you, the Lord, your spouse, your ex, and all that kind of stuff. That's not me to say. But as somebody who has been on the reciprocating end of somebody who just didn't want to be there, that definitely is something for me that could be a red flag. That
Of course.
could say, I don't want to be in a situation where somebody's kind of not going to put much into it.
So
Right.
the
I want to
thing with
be
that,
100%.
the thing with that study is that both people wanted to make it work, right? And that's probably the ones
Absolutely.
that made it work.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If there's one in the equation that doesn't want to make it work or doesn't care,
Yep.
again, it comes back to the
It's
fact
not
that
gonna
you
work.
can't do enough for two.
Yep.
And so, yeah, like that. And I understand, obviously, no one would want to get into a marriage where someone's like, I don't care if it works. I didn't really care about my last marriage. Like, obviously, no one wants to take that on. But I don't think most people are like that. I think most people probably fought, at least on the one half of the equation.
Yeah. I was say at least one person.
Yeah, one person, I think, for the most part. And then you might, they might have come to a conclusion, okay, obviously this isn't going to work and whatever. But yeah, we got to realize that when they do work out, it's because both people are trying to make it work.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that eventually like one person's just going to get tired of just doing everything. I know for me, I was just exhausted.
Yes. Yeah. Same.
Because you're putting so much into it and you're trying and you have all this effort that you're throwing yourself out there, and then you're not having any help. There's no meeting in the middle, and it's so exhausting.
It is. Yeah,
and
for sure.
lonely and overwhelming and difficult. And
Yeah.
it's like emotionally draining, physically draining, like the whole, when you're the one carrying it all.
Yeah.
And you're trying to hope the other person's going to care at some point.
Right. And it's a level of exhaustion that you cannot describe.
Yep.
Like you could just feel like you could sleep for a week or longer.
Yep.
But you can't because you got kids, right?
Yeah, you got kids.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely how I felt at the end of my marriage. It was just, I had nothing left in the tank. I was done. It was over with. And I felt like I felt like for me and the Lord, like I needed to feel the peace for myself, like I had done everything. And I always felt like once I could actually pinpoint an affair, because there was a lot of like hinting around that this is going on, sneaking out in the middle of the night, chatting with other guys, things like that, but like never fully catching it. But once that had happened, then that was it. And then I could be at peace. But everybody's peace comes a little bit differently, right? Like the Lord saying, okay, you can leave and be okay here. That to me was huge. So anyways, I think that Charlene, you are, like I would say over and over again, a 10, and you should never settle for a 5 because you think that's all you're worth. Because you're not worth a 5, you're worth a 10.
Amen, girl.
Thank you. I'm getting there. I'm
but
figuring that out.
Yeah. Be that 10 for somebody else too.
Exactly.
All of us, right? That's kind of our job. That's all we can do. Don't go in looking for a 10 because you're a 5 and try and make that 10 like bring you up to a 10 status or something. Be a 10.
Right. Be a 10.
Let them be a 10. So anyways, well, Charlene,
Everett,
thank you for being on tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Celeste, for making me do it tonight.
Yes, anytime. Sometimes people don't have a choice. They just end up in the hot seat whether they want to be there or not. So
Seriously.
Right.
We get voluntold a month early. So
yeah. Well, this is the part of the show where we kind of wrap it up and say thank you again for being on. And we kind of stop the live stream here on Facebook and stop the